We're back with one more down. Today we have Mr. Dewitt Underwood, uh, all city defensive back, class of 1960, out of South High School in Youngstown, Ohio. Mr. Underwood was a tremendous player during the latter part of the 1950s, playing on one of the greatest teams that South has ever put together, that 1957 undefeated 9-0 team, and had a great career as a 3-year letter winner at South, uh, forming a tremendous powerhouse backfield over the course of 3 seasons with men like Mervyn Spencer, Don Shaw, himself, Bob Price, and the late great Buddy Taylor. Uh, I'm glad to have you on tonight, Mr. Underwood. It's a tremendous honor and pleasure for me. You were a classmate of my mother's, and she has always held you in very, very high regard over the years. So this is a treat for me to get the chance to talk to you this evening about your life experience, your athletic career, and then your post athletic experience as you transition through Youngstown. So welcome to One More Down, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I enjoyed our pre-conversation that we had the other night as you were relaying some things that you could recall to me. We'd like to start off, just getting a feel for what your life was like, your youth, and growing up in the city of Youngstown, Ohio. So can you give us some background of where you grew up in the city, some reference about your parents and your siblings?
Well, I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio. I lived on the south side on East Woodland Avenue. That's between Market Street and South Avenue. I lived there for approximately 23 years before going into the service. And my mother is Ella Underwood. My father was Dewitt Green. I have one brother and 2 sisters. My mother was a single parent, and I enjoyed life. Grew up around good people, and this is what I am today because of the people I grew up with, my parents. We all believed in good things, and that's it. We enjoyed life tremendously. And like I said, we all respected one another and helped one another through life.
Now, growing up on East Woodland Avenue, for those of my generation, some of the landmarks that you had let me know about yesterday, these are things that I had absolutely no idea about. You stated that you began your elementary school at Market Street School, which was down near the Market Street Bridge in the Bend back in the 1950s.
That is correct.
Can you give us a little insight and background of what that school was like as far as the makeup of individuals and the demographic of the neighborhood at that time?
Well, the school itself was approximately 200 yards or 300 yards, give or take, from the Market Street Bridge on Market Street. It was if I remember, a 2-story building. And at a certain time, it was demolished, and Market Street School was moved to Boardman, and I then went to the new school that they had built on Williamson Avenue, and that's where I went to grade school. Finished grade school there, and then went to Hillman Junior High, and from there to South High School.
Now, when that school closed and moved further out Market Street on the Boardman side of the line, um, did that divide the neighborhood in terms of where children went to school after that, or did the whole neighborhood transition over into Williamson School?
As far as I know, the whole school transitioned to Williamson. It was just a block and a half away from where the original Market Street School was. Uh, so everyone that went to Market Street School also went to Williamson Street School.
Now, during those days, I'm assuming that they weren't offering busing to school back in that time. Did you have to walk to all of your schools that you went to?
Yes, I did. I walked to every one of them. As far as I know, the only kids that were bused to school were Catholic kids. Uh, Going from home to Williamson was about 3 miles, 4 miles. Going from home to Hillman was about 5 miles. Going from home to South High School was about 10 miles, give or take.
And how was your attendance walking to school every day?
Oh, well, I made it to school every day. Some days was better than others, the weather wise. But like I said, everyone that I knew walked to school, unless their parents drove them. But basically, that was it. No bus ride.
Yes, sir. I understand that myself. Growing up, I walked all the way until it was time for me to go to high school. Cheney was just a little too far for me to make that walk every day. But my children, they have no concept of walking to school. There's been times that they've lived 3, 4 blocks and we're giving them rides. So it just lets you know how soft we've gotten as parents to tell your
I
kid, yeah,
know.
get in the car, I'll run you up the street.
I understand what you're saying.
Uh, Now, the we've spoken with other guests, transitioning and cutting across different decades and generations. You by far, sir, are the furthest that we can reach back to get some of this insight and some of these stories about the landscape of Youngstown city football and just what was going on, during those 1940s and 1950s. Uh, some of the hallmarks everybody kind of recognizes our city as a blue collar steel town where the people work hard. The early parts of that experience is certainly centered around, lots of nuclear families and uh, people having good, stable jobs through the steel industry and other places. Now, certainly throughout my lifetime, it shifted from some of that to some of the economic depression and then some of the population loss that has happened over the last 25 to 30 years. So, you know, us as, you know, Youngstown natives, and more so yourself, you've been able to see that city from different angles and different perspectives as time has passed. Uh, could you describe what your corridor of the South Side was like as a young man in terms of families, businesses, and just life itself?
Well, as I said, we all were very friendly people. We all communicated with each other and respected each other. Uh, we had Pepsi Cola was right across the street from my house on Woodland Avenue, and then it moved. Seal Test was right up the street. Uh, it was there for several years. In fact, it was there still when I left the area going into the service. Uh, we had the Piatt Street Market, which was very good. All the farmers brought their produce to the area and sold them, and everything they sold was very good. Uh, Grocery stores, there weren't very many. The three main ones I can think of, there's only three that I can think of that we frequented quite a bit. And like I said, the people were great. I mean, very seldom did we have any kind of problems in the area.
Now, did you have any real close running buddies that you grew up with?
Oh, yes, I had several. I Do you want me to name them or
Yes, sir. I would enjoy that.
well, I had Bruce Reed. He passed at an early age. I had Donald Dean, Peggy Dean, Herb Williams, Robert Duke, Donald Lisbon, and many, many more. I have to stop and think of all the ones that I hung around with and grew up with. But like I said, we all were good people. We all obeyed the laws, and everything was fine. We never had too much of a problem of any sort that was negative.
Yes, sir. Some of those names I recognize very well. Robert Duke, um, myself and his son were classmates through elementary school and high school, and he was a sheriff's deputy while I was growing up.
Yes,
Him and his wife were really tremendous,
Fanny.
community figures and family oriented people.
Yep.
So it's just a testament to the type of upbringing and the strength of the neighborhoods that Youngstown had. And it's a great place to grow up and a great place to raise children during those early times. You mentioned Mr. Lisbon, who was also another great South High football player as well.
Yes.
And am I correct? Did he attend Bowling Green?
Yes, he did. He graduated from Bowling Green. Uh, Jay Cunningham also graduated from Bowling Green. Uh, the rest of them went to other places, other colleges, but I didn't know what the outcome was of them going to those schools. I myself did not attend school until I went into the service.
Yes, sir. Now we had spoke a little bit about some of your youth athletic experience, and I was glad to hear you are one of those Bonnie Rogers participants. But interestingly enough, you told me the name of your team, which was one of those organizations that was too early for my time. Would you like to talk about that for a little bit?
Well, like I said, my coach was Ernie Grissett. Uh, he was a South High football player. He coached us for 2 years, and we, I believe, was undefeated or just lost one game in the period that we existed, and that was it. Volley Rogers. I forget how many teams participated in it, but there was a it was a good league, and it helped me uh, progress into high school football.
Now, you had said that you played for a team called United Excavating,
That
which was
was
a
yeah,
sponsored team.
yes, it was. That's the team I played for in Volney Rogers.
Now, just to put some things into perspective for your time period, are you able to describe what the uniform makeup was like at that youth level for you?
Well, basically, all we had was regular street clothes with pads and a helmet. That was the extent of it.
Now, at that age, did your helmet have a face mask on it or no?
Uh, just a bar across the front, the single bar.
Yes,
They're
sir.
not like the ones that came later with the face completely covered with something. Uh, that's I guess that's the only way they were made at that period.
Now, what inspired you to want to get into the game of football?
Well, I've always been sports inclined. I've we used to have a neighborhood baseball softball team, and we went around the city playing softball. And we've always participated in some sort of sports like track or whatever was in season. And like I said, I've always been sports inclined and loved it. And tried to entice all young men and women to participate in sports.
Now, were there any figures or maybe some young men that may have been in the grades ahead of you or preceding you that you followed or looked up to athletically?
Well, far as football is concerned, I always looked up to the players that preceded me, Mervyn Spencer, Lou Floyd, etc. And they inspired me, and hopefully I was able to inspire others.
Well, as I'm finding out, I'm approaching my 50s, and as the years go on, your exploits and your memories are only contained to those that were able to witness what you did and those that participated within your group. So, it takes a little digging and a special person for their name to transcend the years as that time passes. But I was really impressed with uh, the type of teams that you played on, and then just how effective you were as an individual player within those teams. You mentioned Mervyn Spencer, who was a tremendous back ahead of you. I believe he was a senior on that 1957 team, which would
He,
have put him in the class of 58.
he was uh, the man, so to speak, on the team.
And then Coach McAfee, Are you able to give us a little bit of description about the type of coach he was and what his style was like and what his program philosophy may have been founded in?
Well, he was a very good coach. He was a strong coach. He allowed us to exhibit our abilities to the fullest. And there's nothing less that I could say about him. He was a very good coach.
Would you describe him as being fair?
Yes, I do. There is no time that I thought he was not doing the right thing.
Yes, sir. Um, so as you enter into South High School, you're a sophomore in the fall of 1957, and as we have brought up in some previous discussions with other individuals, um, junior high goes from seventh to eighth to ninth grade during the time that you're transitioning through school. So your first year of high school ball is essentially your sophomore year during those times.
Right.
So you enter in the South in uh, 1957. If I'm correct, I think that team goes 9-0, and it's the first undefeated team in South in the previous 20 to 25 years, I believe.
That is true.
And then I was looking at the schedule for that season and some of the things that that team accomplished. Now, uh, in 1979, there's another undefeated South High team with some great players, men that are a little closer to my generation, and they're they're hailed as possibly the greatest South team ever. Now, I'll preface that with that's just a pride thing that people say for their time period or their generation, and
Correct.
it's not possible to know whether that's a true statement or not. So I never refute it. But this 1957 9-0 South High team has a great argument for being in that same conversation. Now it may never be able to be proven, but you guys have 9 wins, and 5 of those are shutouts. Your team scores 335 points over a 9-game season and only gives up 25. So that's an average of 37 points per game on offense, and then you're only giving up 2.8 points per game on defense. So if we're talking about greatest teams ever, I don't see any way that anyone could make an argument against the 1957 team for being right up there with anybody that could be put up against them.
Correct.
Do you have a thought or a opinion on that at all?
None, because I was unaware of another undefeated South team. Uh, uh, like I said, I wasn't in the area when that was happening, so I totally was. This is the first time I'm hearing of it.
Yes, sir. So just to give a short background on that, the 1979 team, uh, Coach Bob Stoops, he takes over maybe a year or two before that, and that team has Garcia Lane on it, another gentleman, Brian Merrill. Garcia Lane went on to great things at Ohio State and had some pro opportunities, but he was a tremendous quarterback for that team. Brian Merrill, he went on to Wisconsin as a defensive back and ended up returning to the area and becoming a very respectable coach at the high school level in the area. But a lot of people in this recent generation, they build them as maybe one of the greatest city teams ever. they were left out of the playoffs. At that time, only the top two teams in the region were selected, and they went 10-0 and just missed making the playoffs. So that record remained unblemished, and they never had a chance to prove themselves against that postseason competition. So, they make that argument and that claim that it's the greatest South team ever. But again, having not seen some of those previous undefeated teams, that's always just a topic for discussion, and
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that. So just briefly, I'd like to kind of go over some of that 1957 information here. I just need a second to pull that up, and I'll read off some of the things that I was able to find. So this is your sophomore season. Has you guys opening up with Wilson with a 34-0 win. You go the second week to John Hay, which I believe that's out of Cleveland, correct?
Cleveland, John Hay, yes.
And that team wipes them off of the field 73-7. Do you have any memories of that?
Oh, yes. I was the only one in the backfield that didn't get a touchdown in that game. I was going to remember that one.
Was John Hay just, and not to slight anything that you guys did, but were they just inept, or was the team that strong that you guys just couldn't be stopped that night?
Well, it's a little of both. We couldn't be stopped, and they weren't the greatest team we played.
And week 3, you guys go play against North, 54-0 win. You go against Cheney, and in 1957, that may have been Coach Red Angelo's first or second year taking over as the head coach at Cheney. He would have only been the second head coach in their history at that time. And he struggled early on in his tenure, but they ended up getting it going after that and becoming one of the dominant teams in the 60s and parts of the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you go to Memorial, which everybody knows is Campbell Memorial, and that's a 9-0 win there. What can you recall from that battle with those guys?
Well, they were a very good team. I can't remember much about any specific thing. It's just that they played very well.
Now, do you recall if you guys had them at South, or if you went on out to Campbell to play them?
We went to Campbell, if I'm not mistaken. We went to Campbell and played there.
Now, during my time as a player, as a sophomore, they had a really powerhouse team, very loaded backfield. And then 11th grade, my team was able to get a 9-0 win. And then senior year, we really blew them out. But my question is during my time, that was it was a hostile environment to go out there and play in that stadium, because them being such a small, tight-knit community, their residents really came out to support and cheer their teams on, and they always had tough players out in that area. Was it the same during your time growing up?
Yeah. Yes, it was. Struthers and Campbell always gave all the other teams hard times.
Now, I'm not certain if I'm in the right era, but there's a gentleman, Clinton Lynch. Is he a player during your time, or is he after you?
Who is this?
Clinton Lynch.
Clinton Lynch. The name doesn't sound familiar.
Okay, and then what about Matt Gilchrist? Is he a player during your time?
No.
No. Okay. So after Camel, you guys, I believe, play Ursuline, and that might have been homecoming.
It could have been. I can't recall.
Now you get a 19-6 win over Ursuline. You go and play Sharon, beat them 35-0, and then geographically, this was always the rivalry during my time. Was the big game was always the Rand and South game. I don't know if that was the case during your period.
Yes, it was. Rand, South, East, and South. Those were the rivalry games.
Now, when you say rivalry, during your tenure playing, is rivalry just contain the competition in between the lines, or does that rivalry carry over into other aspects outside of football?
No, it's strictly on the field. Strictly on the field.
And did they have pep rallies and all of those things during your time?
Yes, they did.
What was Rand South Week like? As you can recall, as a high school player.
Well, getting prepared, it was like pandemonium in the auditorium. We really got riled up for the games.
And then, with Rand and South being the only schools within the city that had their own home fields and home stadiums at that time, what was the environment like playing in South High Stadium during your time as a player?
Well, the environment was great. Team people come watch the game. Was really enthusiastic about the games, and very seldom did we have any type of bad events during and after games. Every now and then somebody got in a fight or something, but basically everybody went home peacefully, and as I see it, they enjoyed what they came to see.
Now, how were field conditions at South during your time? Because when I played there, uh, it had gotten to the point where we would only use that field when there was too many games scheduled at YSU. So by the time I became a high schooler, some of the maintenance on the grass wasn't kept very well. And then my question is really centered because I know you all shared that field at times with Wilson and Mooney.
Yeah, but the field during my time was in very good shape. We never had to worry about a bad spot or whatever. I imagine there were some. I can't say for sure, but it was never a major issue during my time.
Now, did you all practice on the game field during the week, or did you have another area that you
We,
used for practice?
we had another area on the street behind South, across the street from the field house. You're familiar with the field house, South High Field House, where they play
Yes,
basketball?
yes, sir.
Okay, across the street from there was the field we practiced on.
Okay, and then to cap off that 1957 9-0 season, you all win 40-0 over East High School. I have a question about a gentleman, Alfred Jackson, who was a running back at East.
Yeah.
I grew up with his son, and when I spoke with him the other night, just to cross check with him if the relation uh, was the same man as his father that I knew growing up, because I had no idea he was a player. Uh, could you Are you able to talk about him as a running back?
Oh yeah, he was a good running back, but I always kept him in check. He and I were personal rivals when it comes to football. He tried to outdo me, and I tried to outdo him. Every time we played, he was the man I watched.
Now, are there any other figures during your time, as far as players, that anybody else that stands out to you that you can remember?
Oh, there's a lot of them that stood out. A lot of guys from Ursuline, guys from East, guys from all the schools. There was one or two individuals that I thought were very great ball players.
Now, now there's a fella that he shows up on the 59 All City team, and I believe his last name was Tubbs, and they have him listed as 6'3", 250 pounds, and they put him as a defensive back on the All City team. Do you recall this gentleman?
Yeah, I remember Tubbs.
Was he actually a defensive back at that size, or was that just a slot that they may have gave him the
Yeah,
accolade at?
as far as I can remember, he was a defensive back.
Now, 6'3", 250 odd pounds in this day is super large for even a lineman in some cases. Uh, why was he at that position during that time? And then, if you can remember, what was his skill set like to be that big of a man and be able to play that type of position?
Well, I can't uh, answered as his all I know his abilities allowed him to be able to handle that position and never gave it a thought otherwise.
All right. So, 1958 season, which would have been your junior year, the team goes 5-4-1. Um, Now, is there just a little bit of refiguring out the makeup of the team, after losing that some of those members of the 57 team?
Oh yeah, we had to go through a rebuilding process because of the fact we lost such good players and many good players. Uh, I can't recall exactly what all we did, but we managed to, the our record showed we weren't the team we were the year before.
Now, my background is in history. On paper, that's what my degree is in. But it's more so that I've just always had an interest in sports and great stories, really. So for me, I'm a little detail oriented when it comes to things of a era outside of my knowledge base. Um, the type of football that was played during your time, compared to this, what we would call the modern era, it's more power based and run oriented. Were you guys a T backfield with three backs in the backfield and a quarterback?
Yes, that was basically our formation.
Now, what's the philosophy of that T offense? If you can describe and articulate what your role and your job would have been.
Well, I was a left halfback and in the T formation, and we all had very quite a few different plays that we ran off the T formation, and it worked pretty well. It worked very well.
Now, as I understand it, and of course, the T formation is a forerunner of the wishbone formation that develops later on. But is there any particular skill set that a left halfback would have to have over a right halfback, or is it just that it's a balanced formation and you happen to play that side?
I would go with the balance formation, and I played that left half with certain plays just for me, and the right half had certain plays for him, and the fullback had certain plays for him.
Now, is the concept of being a triple threat player still alive during the 50s?
Yeah, yeah, it was live, and working very well. Like I say, it depends on the individual that's participating in that formation and that play, whether it works well, good or bad.
So I'd like to kind of transition over into your senior season. Um, if I'm correct, the quarterback that year is it Bob Price,
Bob Price,
and then you have your classmate, great man Buddy Taylor is a
fullback,
three-year starter at fullback, and
right?
Mr. Taylor was he was one of our neighbors and a great city citizen throughout my youth growing up until his untimely, tragic passing.
Uh,
Reading some of the articles, it describes, his style of play, and he
he
was singled out a lot. I don't know if that means that he's the best player on the team. I'd have to defer to you to give some insight into him as a player.
Well, Buddy was a very good player. Uh, Comparisons, I couldn't compare him to me, or being better or worse than Don or Jay or any of those guys that were in the backfield. At any given time, we all played our assignments. And like I said, I never compared anybody to me that was on the team.
Now, to be a fullback in that offense, what would that demand in terms of strategy?
Well, that's hard to answer because of the fact that, hey, it depends on the play. It depends on uh, how the blocking is, the whole 9 yards. You can't. I didn't bother to think about certain things that would be happening during the play because we had assignments and we went and did them.
Well, I guess my question is centered around uh, what a fullback is during my era. So typically that means you're a primary lead blocker for the tailback, and I'm coming from an era where it's mostly a I formation. But
So
in that
yeah,
T formation, from what I observe, it seems like the offense kind of starts with that fullback position in terms of the dive play to set up sweeps and counters.
Yeah, and we had a lot of quick hitters, and there was no time unless it's how would I say it? Uh, where we have to go and block for one another. Uh, Mainly, our plays were straight ahead, round ends, uh, several different things, and I don't know that the fullback totally had the responsibility of blocking on a lot of plays.
Yes, sir. Um, so your senior season, uh, you you have a very I would call it a dominant season based off of the information that kind of comes out. So when I tally it up, you run or score 10 touchdowns that season as a senior, and
Mhm.
then contribute another three 2-point conversions. And to put that in perspective, that's over a 10 game season. So you average that out, you're hitting pay dirt once every game. And then to put that into the fact that you have a backfield where two other guys are getting the ball throughout the game, and you have to incorporate some of that passing game here and there to be able
Mhm.
to put up 10 touchdowns in a 10 game season with that much sharing of the ball. That's a feat.
Well, I hope so. Uh, I pride myself on my abilities to play the game, and I pride was very proud of the guys I was in the backfield with. And like I said, we just played the game to win,
Yes, sir. Now,
and that was it.
would you describe yourself as a speed guy or a power guy or just a balanced football player?
I just say balanced football player. I wasn't all that fast, and wasn't all. I didn't run over anybody, or if I did, uh, I wasn't aware of it.
So, 1959, which would have been the senior season, you all win the city title again. You have a 7-3 record, opening up the season against East Liverpool with a 14-12 win. They give you credit for a 88-yard kick return for a touchdown during that game.
Well, I did whatever I could. Uh, like I said, I didn't get first team All City. I made second team All City. But hey, that's the way they saw it, so I accepted that.
Now, some individuals, they may be disappointed in something like that, especially with this media driven age that we live in now. uh, there's a lot of push to be an individual versus a team guy. But when I look at the competition and the types of individuals that were being produced throughout you guys' era, and then the fact that it's a more expansive league than the city league that I played in. You have a lot more teams, so there's a lot more competition for those spots. Uh, did you feel like it was an honor to still garner accolades in comparison with the entire pool of players that there were to select from?
Say that again, please.
Yes, sir. So what I'm asking is, did you view being a second team all city player as an accolade, or uh, was it disappointing for you?
Well, I felt it was disappointing because of the fact that they had me on second team defense. They
Yes.
didn't have me on offense.
And is that where you're? So if I'm hearing you correctly, you feel like uh, the work that you put in on that side of the ball should have warranted some consideration for an offensive slot.
Right.
Yes.
Even if it had been second team offense, it was second team defense they gave me, and like I said, I accepted it and kept on walking.
So, as a defender, uh, I believe the paper they listed you as a cornerback, which you described to me as left halfback. Is that's the same
Well,
position?
in offense, left halfback, and defense, yes, cornerback.
Okay. And then, are you able to describe what the technique was and what it took to play defensive back during that time with that style of football that was being played in the 1950s?
Oh yeah, it was. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed playing offense and defense, and the defense we had was very good, and it was my abilities to play the position. I worked on used them to the best of my abilities. And like I said, I have no complaints one way or the other. Like I said, I was a little disappointed in being picked defense, but hey, I accept that and kept on going.
So I'm gonna go through the remainder of that schedule for that season as we transition into your experience post high school. So we left off with this 88-yard kick return against East Liverpool. Um, you go to Mooney the next week and get a 34-8 win. You put up 2 touchdowns in that game. Um, you go over to East and that they get their revenge that year. They get a 30-14 win over you guys, and you contribute a 2 point conversion during that game. Um, what was it about that 59 East team that allowed them to get you all that year?
Well, they brought a guy in called Willie Rogers,
Oh yeah.
and for whatever reasons, it was his first game, first time coming in or something, and he ran pretty good, and he's the one that broke our backs.
Now, if I recall the article, I believe Alfred Jackson had gotten injured in either the game before or 2 games before, which allowed this young man that you're talking about to emerge and get his opportunity.
Hmm.
So you rebound against Wilson the next week. Now, Wilson is interesting to me because it's the other South Side school uh,
Right.
out of yourself, Mooney, and them. Um, and that area was always looked at as being pretty soft during my time growing up, and we ran over top of that school. What was the school like when you all were coming through South?
Well, they weren't considered one of the better teams. Uh, that's all I can say to it.
Now, there's a gentleman that would have been on that team that he ends up becoming a South High mainstay, Ron Demesco, who ends up becoming the head coach at South High. but he's a tight end on that Wilson team. Do you remember him at all?
No, I don't.
Okay, well he ended up being the coach at South during the 80s. He ushered them into their first playoff win, and he was the head man there from the time that he took over, I believe, in 1983 till the school closed. But he did a great job with what he was given, because a lot of young boys who were supposed to go through that traditional South pipeline as their home school, we started opting to choose other places, such as Wilson, such as Cheney, through
Mhm,
racial balance transfers.
mhm.
During your time, you had to play for the school that you were districted to.
There you go. Yeah.
Now, um, what was the difference between going to a South and uh, getting into a parochial school at that time? Because some of the Mooney pipeline and the Ursuline pipeline started to pull kids away from the Souths, the Rands, uh, later on. So I'm just kind of interested to know whether Mooney was truly just a Catholic driven school during those early years they existed, or were guys actually opting to avoid going to South and choosing Mooney as an option?
I think there's a few that use Mooney as an option because they had the opportunity to go to South, but they went to Mooney. Uh, their reasons I could not answer. I wouldn't even begin to try.
Well, after Wilson, you go to Camel again. Uh, they get you guys 34-32. You put up two touchdowns, one rushing, one receiving, and had a 2-point conversion. You beat up on North 24-0. You produce a touchdown in that game. You beat Cheney 26-18. You contribute a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, and then you guys get ran 12-0. You also score in that game, and then you have Ursuline 24-13 win. You put up two touchdowns, and then the last game of the season, you're entering that contest 7-2. You go up against the Warren Harding Panthers
And they
with
killed us.
there's a particular name that
Paul
is
Warfield.
famous over there.
Paul Warfield.
Can you tell us about that?
Hey, he's the greatest.
Yes, sir.
Paul Warfield was the greatest, and I enjoyed playing against him.
Now, what do you remember, if that was at Mollenkoff or did they come to you guys?
Say again, please.
Now, was that in Warren at Mollenkoff Stadium, or did they come over to you
I
guys?
was in Warren at their stadium.
Now, he was a running back during that time, correct?
Right.
And he was all Ohio.
All Ohio. Yes, he was.
Now, what it, and I'm asking for your assessment and your opinion. What was it about him that made him great in your eyes?
Well, I ran track against him. I played football against him. And like I say, he was an outstanding athlete.
And so, am I to assume he did some damage during that game?
Oh yes. Oh yes. He scored one, I know, I think two touchdowns in that game that we played them.
So, as you wrap up your high school career, and you're transitioning to life after high school athletics and sports, what is it that you venture into post graduation?
Uh, I just went to work, working at King's Jewelry as a stock boy. And then after left that job, I went to the country clubs, Squaw Creek Country Club, worked there. Then in 1963, I joined the service.
And so, did you volunteer or was that a draft?
Volunteered.
And what was the appeal to joining the military?
What was what?
The appeal. What prompted you to want to join up and serve?
Well, I was not working in any good paying jobs, I'll say. And I wasn't interested in going to the steel mills. So my other alternative was going into the service. And that's what I did.
Now, how did your family feel about that when you decided to make that decision for yourself?
Well, no one had any info that was discouraging. And so I just did what I did. And I am very glad I did it that way.
Now, did your experience as an athlete and as a football player, did it give you a good foundation for life in the service?
Well, I participated in athletics in the service. I coached in the service. In fact, in Germany, Mervyn Spencer was there at Frankfurt, Germany, playing for the Army team in Frankfurt. And I was coming there, and I started to apply for the football team, but then I got the opportunity to go to Paris, France, and guess which one I chose?
I'm gonna say you went to France.
There you go. I spent 2 years in Paris, France.
Now, that experience of getting to see different parts of the world and experience different cultures. I'm a person who has never had the opportunity to leave the country. What is that like for a young black man in the '70s coming from a city like Youngstown to
So
get your
I,
eyes open to that global view?
I'll encourage anybody, if you get the opportunity, go, because there's nothing like it. And what I appreciated most was the people in these different countries that I've been in. They encourage you to speak in their language, and they accept you more if you put forth an effort to communicate with them in their language.
Now, you described your job during your military career. You told me that you had 21 years in, retired as a sergeant first class, but you were a computer programmer.
I started out in the infantry. I didn't stay that long. When I went to Paris, France, I became a postman delivering mail. And after I came back to the States, that is when I went into computers. I started out as a computer operator, and then I went to school and became a computer programmer. And I was that until I retired.
Now, being on that front line of technology in its earlier development, um, were you getting to experience things as far as the world of computers uh, a lot earlier than the general public?
Well, I don't know what period I would consider as the front line where I got started. I got into computers in 1966. I had been in the service 3 years, 3.5 years. And like I said, from then on till my career was up, I was in computers one way or another.
And so when you say that, in this day and age, having a computer in your home, at your job, it kind of permeates everything that we do now. But
Right.
for you to have that opportunity in the '60s, uh, that kind of puts you in rare air compared to the rest of people that you would have known. You're getting to operate a system or a machine where, to talk to the general layperson, they wouldn't have a clue of what you're talking about.
Well, it's the same way now. Like when I went in the computer field, it was basically mainframes, the big computers.
Yes, sir.
Uh, uh, Now, as you know, it's this little box sitting on the table that can do, in many respects, 10 times as much as that big computer did. That
So
mainframe did.
what was the main function of a mainframe and these large rooms that kept this data?
Well, you utilize punch cards. You utilize punch card machines. Fed the cards into the computer, and then did whatever was necessary to get that program processed and take care of the output.
Now, once you leave military life, uh, what does your next career entail?
Well, 2 months after I retired 31 October of '84. Uh, I went to Saudi Arabia, and I worked in Saudi Arabia for 2 years on the Royal Saudi Naval Forces supply system. Then I came back to the States. I then worked on Fort Benning for a period of time. Then I started working for Radio Shack as a systems engineer. Then, after I worked that for a few years, then I went into law enforcement and went to state of Georgia Police Academy, and then worked in maximum security prison for a period of time, and then I went to the city of Atlanta in corrections, and then I retired from that.
And then, as an elder statesman now, and kind of getting to look back over your life and uh, discuss some of the times that were uh, at the forefront and important in your youth. Going over some of your uh, exploits. You made a tremendous mark on some really great teams. You know, you put your name in the books to be recognized and remembered. If only a handful are left to describe it. if you had one more down to strap it up in the prime of your life, uh, where would that be at? Who would be the guys that you would want to be with you, and who would you want to be going against?
Well, it's hard to say who I'd be wanting to go against because all my, uh, as you would say, adversaries were great and they had great abilities, equal and some better than mine. And the guys that I would want to be with is the guys that I were with. And I respect them all. And we had some great times on the field of sports, on the field of life. And I can't ask for anything better.
Mr. Underwood, it's been a tremendous honor for me to get to talk to you for this hour, get to pick your brain about what football was like during those 1950s, getting to hear the great things that you've been able to do and experience, and just listen to the solid man that you are. Like relayed to you earlier, my mother has always mentioned you as a person who was a good man and a solid individual, and you've confirmed that tonight. So I really appreciate you taking the time out to give me this a little bit of time to get a small window into who you are and the type of player that you were. So I thank you for coming on tonight with me.
Well, thank you, sir. And I appreciate you. And I, I'm curious to know how this will turn out as far as me seeing it.
Well, we're gonna clean it up. I'm gonna send you the copy of what we spoke about tonight. But the final product that'll be available Sunday. It'll appear on YouTube, and I will certainly send you the link so that you can enjoy that final edited version.
Well, thank you. And if I can be of service again, or information that I may have overlooked, or you have not asked that particular question, feel free to ask.
Yes, sir.